So Nancy Pelosi last night went on, let's just call it a little bit of a Twitter rant, because that's kind of what it was. It was a Twitter rant. How I've envisioned it is Nancy was like kicking back in her living room. Maybe she had a glass of wine or two, pulled out her phone, and she just couldn't help herself. But, that doesn't make it okay. And it doesn't make it acceptable for the Speaker of the House, one of the most powerful people in the country, if not the world, to spread blatant lies in a time of crisis, because like some of the things she said, absolutely crazy. Now listen, there have been times in my life when I have really appreciated Nancy Pelosi. That's the God honest truth. Listen, the woman's 80. She still looks great. She's still up and running around and working. She's got chutzpah about her. I have a bit of respect for that, even if I don't always agree with her. However, that does not give her permission to lie to the American people without being called out on it. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about these tweets, and then all we're going to do, folks, we're going to look at a timeline. We're basically going to look at a calendar. And that's all you need. You don't need propaganda for this. You don't need Fox News. You don't need, any sort of right-wing conspiracy propaganda. All you need is a flipping calendar. This isn't even hard. Not even hard. So we're going to do that. We're going to read Nancy Pelosi's tweets and talk about why they're horribly, horribly wrong. But first, before we dig into it, listen, if you like my channel, if you like the content I'm trying to produce here, please go ahead, subscribe, get notifications turned on so you can be notified when new content is available. I'm really trying to get into a rhythm where I'm posting very, very consistently every single day, because really, what the heck else do I have to do? Because no one is working and all this stuff, so whatever. I would love for you to join though. And listen, if you think that you're subscribed, just go ahead and double check that, because I've been hearing from an awful lot of you that YouTube is making the decision to unsubscribe you from my channel for you. But YouTube doesn't know best, you know best. So if you want to be subscribed, make sure you are. Hey, if you don't want to be subscribed, that's cool too, man. We can still play along and have this little game. All right. Let's read what Nancy Pelosi said on Twitter. And of course, in order to do this, we're going to need to turn on dramatic voice, because there's really no other way to read these. You have to have dramatic voice. Now, more than ever, we need the truth, and the truth is that Donald Trump dismantled the infrastructure handed to him, which was meant to plan for and overcome a pandemic, resulting in unnecessary deaths and economic disaster. The truth is that in January, Donald Trump was warned about the pandemic, ignored the warnings, took insufficient action, and caused unnecessary death and disaster. The truth is that Donald Trump told his most loyal followers that the pandemic was a hoax and that it would magically disappear, endangering lives and paving the way for economic disaster. The truth is that we did not have proper testing available in March, despite Trump repeatedly claiming that we did. And even now, we don't have adequate tests, masks, PPE, and necessary equipment, which creates unnecessary death and suffering. The truth is that because of an incompetent reaction to this crisis, the strong economy handed to Donald Trump is now a disaster, causing the suffering of countless Americans and endangering lives. The truth is, a weak person, a poor leader, takes no responsibility. A weak person blames others. Ain't that the truth, Nancy? There are important decisions ahead. Making the right choices requires understanding the truth of what took place and of what is currently happening. And of course you have to turn to me for what the truth is. Of course she didn't add that. That was my little addition. Nancy, come on, man. Come on. Okay, let's just talk about this first tweet right here. We're gonna spend a minute on this first tweet right here. The truth is that in January, Donald Trump was warned about this pandemic and ignored the warnings, took insufficient action, and caused unnecessary death and disaster. All right, Nancy, let's talk about what you were tweeting about in January, because I have spent the better part of the last hour going through every single tweet that Nancy Pelosi sent since since basically China announced this crisis, or the WHO announced this crisis on December 31st. So the timeline of events that we are going to be using for this is the Trump timeline, because frankly, that's actually the only timeline that I remotely am even a little bit close to trusting, because every other timeline I've looked at has completely editorialized it and added their own spin. So I just want a statement of fact. Like, what did the government do? What actions did the government take? I don't want any additional editorializing or tweets or any of that. I want to know what actions they took, and this is the best timeline that I have been able to find. So I took a look at Nancy Pelosi's tweets starting from December 31st. And I looked at them through the entire month of January. We're not going to go through all of them because, frankly, the woman tweets more than I do. But if you want to partake in this exercise, you can obviously go and do it. It's all public information. Where I want to start off, though, is January 27th. Now, January 27th is a magical date for a couple of reasons. Number one is that January 27th is when Donald Trump actually formed his task force. It's when he actually formed the coronavirus task force. And a lot of stuff happened before then. The CDC was issuing a bunch of warnings. On the 20th, Dr. Fauci announced the National Institutes for Health is already working on a vaccine. A lot of stuff had actually happened. Trump tweeted at President Xi to send experts to China offering to help them with the coronavirus outbreak. But when he actually formed the task force, that's when I kind of perceived that things got rolling. Trump is not going to form a task force about something if he's not taking it seriously. And so that's the point where I'm like, okay, Donald Trump is paying attention. He's actually taking it seriously. He's putting people on it. He's doing what people need to do. Let's see, shall we, what Nancy Pelosi was tweeting about on the 27th. Well, look at this. She's tweeting on the 27th about the Muslim travel ban and complaining about that. What else is she tweeting about? This is on the 28th. Trump's lawyers argued that he has a right to abuse his power because the impeachment trial was going on in the Senate on the 28th. And so Nancy's trying to get her way with the impeachment trial. Now, some could argue that Nancy Pelosi was actually the reason that the impeachment trial was going on while Donald Trump was trying to handle the coronavirus crisis and obviously causing a distraction from anything the man was trying to do, because she delayed delivering the dang articles to the Senate for like a couple of weeks. This all could have been wrapped up and done by the end of January, because everyone knew what the outcome was going to be anyway, but it wasn't, because Nancy screwed around and gained nothing by holding the impeachment articles back. The outcome was exactly the same. It was a waste of time, and instead of, it could have been that the impeachment thing was all wrapped up and Trump could actually focus on things that would actually help people. But what ended up happening is that he had the impeachment trial in the Senate, he had coronavirus, and God knows what else was on his plate. No one can handle that many things all at once. It was an absolute distraction, and here she is tweeting about it on the 28th when Donald Trump is about to form his task force. On the 29th, she was tweeting about infrastructure. Now, I think that infrastructure is interesting, because Donald Trump has talked about wanting to do an infrastructure bill as part of the next stimulus. He's like, rates are low. This is the perfect time to do infrastructure. He is all excited about infrastructure. I really think it's going to be interesting to see how Nancy Pelosi, with all of her copious tweets about infrastructure, literally on the day when Donald Trump was forming the task force, literally on the same day. Let's see how they respond to that. But let's keep going on Nancy Pelosi's Twitter timeline. Also, on January 28th, she was tweeting about the Super Bowl and how she was excited for the 49ers to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Wah, wah, Nancy. That one obviously didn't work out the way you wanted it to. How about another thing on the 29th? The American people have spoken clearly and history is on their side. More impeachment, 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 even though they all knew exactly what the dang outcome was going to be. Fast forward to February 4th. Oh, what's Nancy tweeting about now? Healthcare, healthcare, healthcare. This is about the State of the Union. The State of the Union was on February 4th, I believe. So she's tweeting about how she wants to talk about healthcare, healthcare, healthcare. Nancy Pelosi, on February 4th, when she's tweeting about healthcare, 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 had still not sent one tweet, not one tweet about the coronavirus. Not one. Not a single one. So she has done nothing. At this point, she has done significantly less than what Donald Trump has done. Let's keep going. Also on February 4th, Nancy is tweeting about how she reached out her hand in solidarity after introducing him incorrectly to try to shake Trump's hand, and Trump just brushed her off like an evil bully. And look at this, man. Like, I'm not even actually convinced that Trump saw her, because Trump had already started, if you watch the video, Trump had actually already started like turning around when she reached out her hand. I'm not even convinced he saw her. It doesn't look to me like her hand is in his line of sight. I could be wrong, and I frankly wouldn't have blamed Trump if he had ignored the outreach for a handshake anyway, because she introduced him incorrectly. Like, she started it, and you know, it's not appropriate for either of them. Both of them are frankly behaving like absolute children. But she's not a complete innocent in the whole affair, clutching my pearls. I don't know why he would do that to me. Okay, let's keep going. On February 6th, she's tweeting about the Tuskegee Airmen. And keep in mind, this is 2 days after she ripped up the State of the Union, right? She ripped it up, celebrating what? Who was celebrated in the State of the Union, Nancy? Who was celebrated? A Tuskegee Airman was literally celebrated in the speech that you ripped up. Let's keep going. On February 7th, she's tweeting about Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, and she's saying he was fired. He was not fired. He was reassigned. That is blatantly false. He was reassigned to a different position. I think it was like at the DOD or something like that. And that was absolutely the very best thing that could have happened to the guy. He didn't, like, he's going to be so much happier not being in the White House every day. I said it at the time, and I still stand by this. And that, by the way, I said that he was going to be happier before I even went to the dang Trump rally. So this was not, you know, this everything in my life is basically like timeline now, like before the Trump rally and after the Trump rally. I said that he should thank his lucky stars that he was moved out of the White House even before then. But Nancy Pelosi's tweeting about that on February 7th when she still hasn't tweeted anything about coronavirus. Let's keep going. February 9th, Nancy is tweeting a picture of her ripping up the State of the Union, defending the honor of who the heck knows. I don't even know anymore. But that was what was getting her attention, not coronavirus. Let's keep going, shall we? On February 12th, Nancy Pelosi is tweeting about the passing of the ERA in the state of Virginia, even though it's not going to become a constitutional amendment because it can't. It's not how it works, man. It needed to pass a long, long, long time ago, but this giant step forward, or rather I should say, this giant symbolic step forward for women's equality, as though women aren't already treated much more equally than they were when the ERA was first started. On February 12th, Nancy, instead of tweeting about anything related to coronavirus, is tweeting about Serena Williams and celebrating Black History Month. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with doing this. There's nothing. I guess Serena Williams is great. Fine, whatever. Black History Month is fantastic. Fine, whatever. There's nothing wrong with celebrating these things, except when you have yet to mention the coronavirus and are attacking the President of the United States for not doing enough, when a simple timeline, Nancy, a simple timeline will show you that he did more than you. Did more than you, girl. Come on. All right, where's my place? Here we go. All right. On February 13th, the president's latest efforts to steal congressionally appropriated military funding in order to build his wasteful, ineffective border wall. She's tweeting about the dang wall. The dang wall. Really, Nancy? Really? How are open borders doing for you now, Nancy? How's that argument about to go? Please. On February 20th, Nancy is tweeting about being invited to be the commencement speaker at Smith College. And I just thought this was especially ironic since we still have not had one tweet about the coronavirus, not one single one from her. And she's talking about speaking at a college commencement ceremony that now will probably not take place. You know, way to be on the ball there, Nance. Way to be on the ball. On February 24th, Nancy is tweeting about how she was, I think this is like when she was doing her little tour around Chinatown in San Francisco, because she wanted to encourage people to go outside and go to Chinatown, and she's learning how to make fortune cookies in Chinatown. Again, nothing fundamentally wrong with that, except that she still has yet to tweet about coronavirus, and she's encouraging people to go outside and be around mass crowds of people. And then finally, at long last, on February 25th, Nancy sends her first tweet in her dang timeline about coronavirus. And what does she say? Americans need a coordinated, fully funded, whole of government response to keep them and their loved ones safe. The president's request for coronavirus response funding is long overdue and completely inadequate to the scale of this emergency. This was the first tweet that Nancy Pelosi sent about coronavirus. Didn't send a single one. And again, go look at her Twitter timeline, man. This woman tweets about everything. She tweets about everything. I just went through the whole thing this morning. If she had thought that coronavirus was important, if she had thought that coronavirus was something that we should be focusing our national resources on, this woman would have been tweeting about it for GD weeks. Please, she's got whole coordinated efforts on Twitter. There are whole campaigns on Twitter. When you look at the whole timeline, you see this really clearly. These are all things planned out. I'm sure she's got social media people that put all this stuff together until the end of February, February 25th. First time she mentions it. So please, Nancy, I'm going to call that debunked. Debunked, because you didn't do crap, and anyone can go look at this timeline and see that Trump, or the government, and the government I will say, did a whole bunch of stuff before you first discovered it on February 25th. And the reason that she sent that tweet out on the 25th is look what happened on February 24th. The Trump administration sent a letter to Congress requesting at least $2.5 billion to help combat the spread of coronavirus. So Nancy, before you had said anything, before you issued any public statement other than go hang out in Chinatown among all the people, and listen, I have no problem with Chinatown. I love Chinatown. Dim sum is awesome, man. Like, whatever. But, like, telling people to be around crowds of people, that didn't work so well for Bill de Blasio. I'm going to say it didn't work so well for Nancy Pelosi when she's also complaining that Trump just isn't doing enough. Oh my God. I swear these people are going to give me a heart attack. I swear. All right, let's look at the next tweet. The truth is, Donald Trump told his most loyal followers that the pandemic was a hoax. Really, Nancy? Did he really say that? Let's check factcheck.org. Shall we? Factcheck.org says Democratic ad twists Trump's hoax comment. The Democratic super PAC Priorities USA has been running a ad falsely suggesting that Donald Trump called the coronavirus outbreak a hoax. At the beginning of the ad, splices together two quotes to have Trump saying the coronavirus, this is their new hoax. It is obvious in listening to the ad, he said the coronavirus and this is their new hoax at different times. His voice sounds quite different in the two segments, but on the screen, the coronavirus, this is their new hoax, appears to be a signal sentence. Trump did use the word hoax in his full comments and subsequent explanation, make clear he was talking about the Democratic attacks on his administration of the outbreak, not the virus itself. I'm going to say that one more time, because the hoax thing is something I keep hearing over and over and over and over and over again, partially due to people like Nancy Pelosi who have lost their minds, right? Trump never called the virus a hoax. He has never once called the virus a hoax. Trump has been handling the virus since the end of January when he was actively undergoing the impeachment trial in the Senate. He has been handling it since then. I'm not saying he's handled it perfectly. He has not handled it perfectly, but no one has. And I don't think like that should ever actually be an expectation. We aren't mind readers. We aren't fortune tellers. We can't see what's going to happen in the future. But he was handling it this entire time. The thing that he called the hoax was the Democratic and the media's reaction to it. That is what he was referring to when he said the hoax, which of course Nancy Pelosi well knows. Let's look at this next one. The truth is that we did not have proper testing available in March, despite Trump repeatedly claiming that we did. See, it wasn't even Trump, Nancy. Let's look at the CDC's website, so shall we? This is the CDC, Center for Disease Control. Let's look at the amount of specimens tested. And listen, look, they weren't testing many at first. At the beginning of March, absolutely right. There weren't that many tests being done. But look what happened. Look what happened. Looks like they were doing, frankly, an awful lot of testing in March. It's from the CDC. This is not from Trump. This is from the CDC. So relax, man. Relax. And the rest of it, listen, I'm not going to talk about, let's talk about the economy. Where did she tweet about the economy? She tweeted about it somewhere. She talked about how Donald Trump was handed an economy, a robust economy. Oh, here it is. The strong economy handed to Donald Trump is now a disaster. Nancy, no one blames Trump for what's going on in the economy. No one blames Trump for what's going on. I mean, come on, that's absolutely ridiculous. This is not his fault, and people know it's not his fault, and he wasn't just handed an economy, he managed that economy and cultivated that economy, and 3 years into his presidency, that economy was amazing. That economy had record low unemployment rates across the board. People had jobs, people were demanding higher salaries, businesses were doing well, it was amazing, that economy. And you can't just say after 3 years, this is what I don't understand. Why after 3 years is it not Trump's economy? Is it still, I will fully acknowledge that the things that Trump inherited were very positive. The Obama administration in regards to the economy made some good decisions, and they handed that nice economy to Trump, which is, by the way, what we should want to happen. We should want a president to hand a great economy to the next president. That is a good thing. But after 3 years, that is Trump's economy. Stop giving credit to someone else for something that he has actively managed for 3 years. That is absolutely just disingenuous. The truth is, he is a weak person, a poor leader, and takes no responsibility. Trump is on TV for several hours a day. Several hours a day. How much more responsibility do you want him to take? How much more do you want him to do? I'm honestly curious, because you're complaining on Twitter every single day. Like, you know what weak leaders do? You know what they do, Nancy? They complain about every single thing. They don't, what is the saying? And I actually hate this saying, but the saying is, don't come with problems, come with solutions. Strong leaders come with solutions. Donald Trump is on TV every single day talking about solutions. Now, you might not like the solutions that he selected. You might not like where he's focusing his attention. That is a different discussion. But to say that he's not coming with solutions is absolute bunk. What are you doing, Nancy? You're coming with problems. You're coming with problems every single day with every tweet that you send, every statement you make. It's just problem. What are you doing? What have you done? Because the first tweet that you sent was on February 25th. The first statement that you made about this being an emergency, it's February 25th. And now you want to talk about how he is incompetent and he's done nothing? Please, you are so full of it. You are so disingenuous. And people like you are exactly why I left the Democratic Party.